You're listening to Comic Reflections, episode 33. I'm Nicholas Prom.
I'm Jeff Barnhart.
Jeff's got a cold again.
Sorry.
It's all right. It's totally okay. These things happen. So today we are Free Comic Book Day comes but once a year, the first Saturday in May, and it's the biggest day of the year for comics and for many publishers, not just Marvel and DC, to broaden their audience and let people know what's coming out in the coming year. And this episode is all dedicated to new material that came out Free Comic Book Day.
I haven't read any new comics really for about 10 years because, I grew up.
Oh, right.
No, it's interesting. There's a lot of stuff that's new, a lot of stuff that's old. We can go through, I'll be making these comments throughout, but some of the demonstrations of the comic book art was either too short or they wanted to end it on a cliffhanger or something like that, but they didn't give enough. Some of these are an actual comic book, which I think would be a better idea.
I mean, it's one and done, and there you go.
And then this is what you get when you buy the comic book.
All right.
And not just a teaser. And
all right. And everybody, I mean, it's many different publishers. I mean, all the publishers in the biz usually put out a book or two on Free Comic Book Day. And, every Wednesday when new comics come out, it's usually very skewed still to Marvel and DC. But this is the day for all these other publishers to really, get a big shot of publicity. And they're, choosing different ways to market it. Some want to end it on a cliffhanger because they want you to go and get the series, or they're having snippets because they want to preview several of their titles that they've gotten.
I don't mind the cliffhangers, but they didn't give me enough to care about the people on the cliff.
Sure.
And if I don't care, then I don't care if they fall.
Well, right.
And that's the entire raison d'etre of the whole thing, is for people to buy more comics. And some of them did well, I think, but most did not.
Okay. And that's fair, and again, I agree with you. It's the whole point is to bring in new readers, and you want people to be invested in these characters and want to, go on with, what's happening in their various titles. So let's talk about this. Who succeeds in the marketing well and who does not? Let's start with the big guns, Marvel and DC. Let's start with the Superman, The Last Son of Krypton, special edition.
A younger Superman, I like him middle-aged, like in the Silver Age. He's an adult, and this guy is young, and I don't know. I thought his father Jor-El looked like a young, better-looking George Lucas. I was kind of, hey, I didn't see the wisdom of Jor-El like you usually do. Perry White's cool. In the story, another Kryptonian, comes to the world, and Superman finds out about it, the government finds out about it. You get to see Kryptonese written out, which is kind of cool. Nice calligraphy.
Yeah.
And it's a little interesting story. Superman gets really, really mad. I don't think I've ever seen him that mad before.
Oh yeah, because the government instead of, Superman was very lucky. He landed in a remote area and was found by two people that, took him in and raised him. Perfect. This new Kryptonian child lands in the middle of Metropolis, I think, and immediately is, seized by government officials of, whatever agency, I can't remember, but
I'm not sure we're told.
Yeah, I think they may have left it vague on purpose, but Superman becomes very protective, and he's very angry when the child is then spirited away to like a secret compound, and the kid doesn't know what's going on. So he's clearly a victim in this, and of course Superman is empathizing and thinks it's wrong on that level. So I think it's cool.
Mom and Pa Kent look ugly, but they look real. I'm not sure I like it.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how to explain it. They do look like farmers, and, and I've seen people look like that, but I kind of like the old way of having the farmers that look a little bit nicer.
No.
Oh well.
Okay.
Um,
But yeah, no.
but they're beautifully drawn, very well drawn.
Yeah, an art by Adam Kubert. Yeah, that's right. And what's really cool is Jeff Johns, one of the big writers at DC Comics, wrote this, but it was co-written by Richard Donner, the same
Okay.
Richard Donner who directed the first two Superman movies.
Fascinating.
Yeah, so I don't know how much input he had into this story, but I believe The Last Son of Krypton is a limited series that's actually already come and gone, so I think that's probably out in trade paperback. The second part of this book is previewing an upcoming Superman limited series. I think it's called Superman Unchained or Unbound, and there's a big hullabaloo about it because Jim Lee is illustrating it, and Scott Snyder, who is one of the top writers in comics these days. He's the wonder kind. He's excellent. He's done incredible things with Batman, and yeah, and Swamp Thing. So so yeah,
I think it works as a freebie.
sure.
Got me interested in. Should I read more Superman? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I definitely liked it. Oh, you're getting a phone call. Let's answer it. Okay. So next we have Infinity from Marvel.
I wrote my notes. Yay, Thanos!
Yay!
Because he is the guy, and I couldn't think of his name at the end of the Avengers. The
Yeah.
very end,
Yeah.
I don't know what they call that
That
after the credits.
was it. I think it's. I don't know if it has a name, but it's after the credits. The scene after the credits. Oh wait, no, it wasn't even after the credits. It was just the final scene. I thought. And then after the credits
Oh yeah,
scene was that
you're
funny.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it was in the credits, but it's on a down. Okay.
I can't remember now. Ah. But anyway, yes, Thanos was at the end of the Avengers, and I was going to bring it up. And so this is the event book that's kind of leading up to that because he's going to be the villain in Avengers 2. So they're doing a big push with Thanos at Marvel.
Yeah. Interesting story. Nice. They have an earlier Thanos about him finding a flower. It looks like a daisy.
Oh
And
yeah,
they
there's
destroy.
a reprint of this short little backup story about Thanos, and it's from an oldish. It was in the back of Logan's Run, the series that Marvel put out of all comics. But yeah, it's Thanos versus Drax the Destroyer, who's going to be in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. So they're kind of planting seeds of that all over the
All
place.
right, now I want to see that. I didn't really want to see that Guardians of the Galaxy until now.
Well, there you
I don't
go.
know. The raccoon was setting me off.
Right.
Then there was a Captain America in there too.
Oh yeah, there's a little preview of another an Avengers limited series or a graphic novel that's coming out. Um, yeah, what was that called again, Jeff?
Oh, I don't
Oh, it's
know.
Avengers: Endless Wartime. That's what we're talking about. Yeah.
And I didn't understand the end.
Oh, Ms. Marvel is now Captain Marvel. That's the end.
Oh,
Now she's called Captain Marvel.
oh, well, I'm Gabber.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know. For me, there's only one Captain Marvel, and that's Billy Batson. The
Mhm.
Shazam Captain Marvel. But who we'll talk about in our next episode, actually.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I thought this was pretty cool. I mean, it's probably not going to top the Infinity Gauntlet thing they did in about 1990, 91. That was a pretty big deal. But I think it should be cool, and it's a cool lead into the movie to kind of get people excited. So this was cool.
Okay.
So yeah, Dark Horse put out a couple of free comic book day books, and they do these in kind of anthologies. The first one has stories from Star Wars, Captain Midnight, and Avatar: The Last Airbender. So let's talk about this Star Wars story, though. The assassination of Darth Vader.
Darth is a hero here. What is the guy's name? Captain Thorn, and
The
You don't
captain
even
of a
see
Star
him
Destroyer. Yeah,
until at the end, he's killed. And Darth lives. Okay,
yeah.
big surprise. Uh, it was an interesting plot, but you don't know why Captain Thorne wanted to do this stuff. And
Perhaps he felt his power was threatened by Darth Vader or whatever, or Vader was too.
yeah,
I
but
don't
then
know.
he's killed, and we never know. And then who cares?
I think because the
It's
focal point is about Darth Vader, and there's this assassination plot against him, and he, uses Boba Fett to his advantage to, kind of find
that's
the traitor.
that's fine, but I kind of want to know what's Captain Thorne. What's he thinking of? Why is he assassinating Darth Vader? And he's using all these stormtroopers and just letting them die in space, and just
Right.
it's just I don't know. It's too short. It should have been a longer story, and well drawn, nicely done. The story lacks because of the shortness of it.
Yeah. The brevity kills it for you.
Hmm.
I think that this story, even if it was done as a one shot, but as a full length comic, it probably would have been better. But I liked it. I thought it was cool. I really like the Captain Midnight story in here. It's this golden age. I think he was a radio serial hero first, and he had some comics as well back in the 40s. And they've kind of brought him back at Dark Horse doing well a golden age kind of superhero book,
Yeah.
which is neat.
Yeah, it's okay. Nazis, yay!
Yeah.
They make great villains.
Oh, they're great. As a default foe, Nazis are always good. You always look righteous and awesome when you're battling Nazis. So the last part of this book, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Eh,
I was confused. What's going on? And you need like a history of the Avatar world to find out what's going on.
all
'Cause,
right.
who is this group, and who's that, and who's the king of the airbenders and the firebenders and all that? It's sort of if you make it too hard, I stop caring.
All right. I mean, and for me, I'm like, I don't know. I've never watched the cartoon series, and I've never read the other comics. Um, it's got a fan base. I mean, there's people who really like it. So I mean,
Oh,
um,
yeah, it's just it's hard to jump into. I think you need to start from the beginning.
well,
It's
right.
complex, and nothing wrong with the complexity and all that,
All
but
right. I can tell that these relationships go deeper, and there's a lot of
uh,
interplay that's not shown here. Um, it's kind of cool. If I was interested in manga or Asian anything, this might make me want to read more of their comics or go check out that cartoon. Since I'm not, I don't care. So Dark Horse, like I said, put out uh, two books on Free Comic Book Day. Their second is an anthology with Mass Effect, uh, R.I.P.D., and the the True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys. So, did you want to what part of that did you want to talk
I
about
guess
first?
Mass Effect got started.
I think it's based on some video game that I don't know about or care about, but I thought this was cool, and it came
Oh,
across.
of course, yeah.
Yeah,
Now I know.
yeah.
Not a bad story.
It felt very Battlestar Galactica to me, the original. The story kind of was like that.
I enjoy stories about fleets and ships, and and they're in a hierarchy, in a naval hierarchy. I find those interesting. That's
Yeah.
one of the more interesting things about the original Star Trek is they're a part of something. It's not just a lone wolf going out there, and the interactions of the, the hierarchy is interesting
Well, sure. When you
sometimes. It
have this
can be.
infrastructure, this military structure, there's the goings on of there. Like a lot of that stuff writes itself, because
Mhm.
there's so much of a systematic kind of thing going on. So I thought this was cool. It's kind of a story about a guy he's a cripple, but he wants to be a pilot, and he kind of finds a way to trick the leaders of this military group to give him a shot. And I think it was clever. I think if you enjoy science fiction, this is a book worth checking out. It's Mass Effect from Dark Horse Comics.
Yeah, nicely drawn. Everybody looks the same. Though. It's hard to.
Yeah,
I
there's a
have
bit of
trouble
that.
finding people. Who's this? Who's that? And this happens a lot. And
Yeah, and especially when people are all wearing uniforms, and it's that'll happen. I think it'll be one of those books that you probably have to read a couple few issues and kind of okay, then you're kind of familiarized with the cast here. But as a just a peek, I thought this was a cool story. So we want to talk about R.I.P.D.
Yeah.
There's a movie coming out this summer, and I had never read any of the comics before this. I like the concept. I mean, it's basically like Men in Black, only instead of aliens, it's ghosts. You know, it's a police force for the undead. Um,
I had trouble figuring who is who. Yeah, it's an interesting idea, and I give them that. Not a bad story. Some of the editing, I don't know. They mentioned this person, Roy, who's a female, and she just comes up, and I don't see her, and all of a sudden she's here.
Here's the thing:
And
these ghost cops, they have their form that they see each other as, but when they go to see people who are living, like the one that looks like a cowboy is the one that looks like a hot girl to normal
that's why
people,
I'm confused.
and
Okay.
the other guy looks like an old Chinese guy.
Okay.
And there's the movie coming out. I saw the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
It's Ryan Reynolds and Jeff Bridges.
Hmm.
So it should be
That'd be
cool.
good.
It looked pretty funny, to be honest. So cool concept. So
Yeah. The next one is True Lies of the Fabulous Killjoys, and the writer is Gerard Way of My Chemical Romance.
see, see, I don't
My
even.
daughter really likes the Umbrella Academy, I think that's the name.
Oh yeah, he wrote that too.
Mhm.
I've read a little bit of Umbrella Academy. That's an interesting book.
Interesting. Um, I don't know how to. Very interesting ideas. Just I would like more action in it, and then stuff that happens, and then people complaining about why they broke up all the time, and it's just what in the story. It's just really
From
irritating.
Umbrella Academy.
Umbrella Academy inside
Sure.
this. This was bizarre. You have
Oh, I love the art. Becky Cloonan, who has done, well, she's done plenty of things, but she's done some wonderful work on Conan. She did this guest fill-in issue on Batman that I really enjoyed. Her art's just beautiful.
very simple but very beautiful.
Yeah.
And nice color and contrast is interesting. Um,
Well, that's probably more the colorist than.
right. Okay. The the world is controlled apparently by vampires and scarecrows,
Yeah.
and who regulate how much you sleep. That's a interesting concept. I don't know why vampires and scarecrows would care how long you sleep, but if you don't sleep your 8 hours, you get offed and turned into you're replaced by a robot or something.
Maybe the people that are replaced by robots, they're like become food for the vampires. Maybe that's what it is.
I don't know.
Because if they're ruling the society, maybe they're like, oh, you break our rules and now you die, and that's how we maintain ourselves. I don't know. But
why make rules at all? Why don't you just take them?
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of weird to set up as where monsters rule humanity in this totalitarian kind of 1984 kind of concept. It's interesting. I'd like to read the book because it seems so odd and there's so much, weirdness that's kind of unexplained here. But it's the right kind of what the heck's going on. It's the kind that makes you want to go like, okay, I'm going to at least check this out when it's in the trade, if not pick up the issues when it comes out.
I'm not sure. You can't have too much weirdness, and it gets weirdness for weirdness' sake. I'd give this a try, but I'd worry about that. But we're going to look through a lot more comics. One of the problems is to make a new comic book and a new comic book hero. It's difficult because there's so many comic books already out.
Well, sure.
And it makes them new and different.
New things are hard to get established. That's very true.
Or even think of.
Sure.
Try to think of a superhero. It's not going to,
Yeah, that's probably the hardest thing to come up with a new superhero that someone would care about. It's the old stuff.
New superpower, for that matter.
Sure.
Or a backstory. And then to make it interesting and, you're ripping off such and such.
Well, right. And this turns our concept of reality that we would set up, like normal world, add superheroes. This is taking reality and flipping it upside down and then turning it inside out. And how did the world get to be this way? I'd like to read the book for that reason, among others. I mean,
oh, yeah, very interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next one's Valiant Masters.
So this is Valiant Comics reprinting some of their old stuff from the 90s, and this is just kind of previewing some of the trades that are coming out. Valiant was a successful company in the early 90s for a few years, and they've had a wonderful comeback in the last couple. They totally relaunched their universe and started over with wonderful, terrific art and writing, and very little of their old material has been put out in trades, and now they're starting to put that out, and that's what this is kind of just giving us a little peek at.
First was Ninjak.
Yeah.
Don't like the name, but it's beautifully drawn.
Yeah, the art's by, hang on. Oh, Joe Quesada. Yeah, that's right.
I like the Japanese motif. It's very nice.
Yeah, and I, who generally don't like that kind of stuff, also very much enjoyed the Ninjak. And he's been used very effectively in the Valiant relaunch, and I think he's getting his own book very soon. The second, snippet in this is Shadow Man. Wasn't a character that I followed from the original Valiant, but just kind of taking a look at this, I'm like, okay, it looks pretty cool.
And this came up a lot. It just didn't really do anything for me.
Right.
The next one, I don't know, unless you have anything else to say about
it.
Sort of,
not a whole lot. I think it's the Eternal Warrior.
Yeah, I thought that was very nicely done. Reminded me of Prince Valiant, and I mean that as a compliment. It looks like Prince Valiant, and it's kind of drawn a little bit like it, but it's gorgeously drawn.
Barry Windsor Smith, his art was really acclaimed on this book. It's funny, you go and look at his stuff from Marvel in the 70s, and it's actually really, he started to get popular then, but I really dislike the way his art looked back then. He really grew and got better. And it's interesting, the comparison you draw with Prince Valiant. I think it's taking that medieval setting and then adding this immortality aspect, and then he kind of, lives for centuries and then becomes part of the superhero world later. So Eternal Warrior's an interesting concept. The third and I think final preview.
Fourth, actually.
Fourth? Mm-hmm. Oh, excuse me. That's right. Is for Rai, which is he's kind of a samurai immortal character that Valiant had in the early 90s, and chances are we'll bring back again.
Yeah. They did a nice exposition on what happened, which is well done. Which is rare in a set of books. It tells you why everything's the way it is. They do have a character named Wasabi. Is anyone named Wasabi?
I don't know. I thought that was kind of bad. I'm like, that's a sauce, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's like naming your kid Hot Dog.
I know. Steve Colbert found this one girl named Ketchup and had great fun with that. And they'd be the same way. Well, maybe it's a different culture. I don't know. Maybe it's a popular name. I don't know.
There's somebody on. There's a page that I post on Facebook, and I swear there's a guy whose first name is Soup, and I'm like, hippie parents, like.
His last name is Nazi.
No, but I thought that was really weird. But Raya is kind of interesting. He's connected to Valiant's other character, Bloodshot, who is this super soldier who's like regenerates because his body is full of instead of blood, he has all these nanobites that keep him intact.
I didn't much like that character. Just sort of.
Oh, right.
Just kind of. Didn't care, and he bored me.
And that's the trouble with martial arts characters. They're just kind of like the silent but deadly guy, and there's no personality to draw you in.
You need a goofball partner or something.
When we were reading The Master of Kung Fu, Shang-Chi had his, as you said, Occidental friend, the white guy, super spy guy, whatever, who would make jokes and stuff, and the interplay, it livened the book up.
Yeah, and this is not just martial arts. Sherlock Holmes would be boring without Watson.
Yeah.
and Spock be born without Kirk and McCoy.
Yeah,
These characters are interesting because they are with somebody who is not like them, and there is conflict. But somebody who's stoic by themselves is deadly dull.
yeah. You can have a scene of that, but I think that's why in any medium, whether it's television or comics or what have you, an ensemble
Hmm.
with this strong character interplay is always better than just one guy and they're the focus and other people are incidental.
Even James Bond has all these characters that he's always with, Moneypenny and M and Q, and that makes it interesting to beginning with, and then he goes off by himself and then meets villains
Sure.
and other people.
And
But
even has, Blofeld and Jaws who were
yeah,
recurring
mhm.
villains, so I agree. Uh, but so we've got Valiant has their a preview book for their new stuff for 2013, and their big event they've got going right now is the Harbinger Wars, and it involves Bloodshot and the Harbinger Renegades and Toyo Harada and the Harbinger Foundation, and yeah,
They do a nice little page on all the characters, what's going on, which I thought was nice. Well drawn and informative. Very well done. That's would be a great PowerPoint or something like that.
and I think this is the right way to, like, if somebody's never picked up a book, have that page like this is what this is about, and then have your comic.
Right.
This is, I think, a successful Free Comic Book Day book.
Mhm.
So
Um, Toyo, he survived Hiroshima. I mean, people never survive the rape in Nanking. It's always Hiroshima. It's not even Nagasaki or the firebombing of Tokyo. It's got to be Hiroshima. Okay? It's getting to be a cliche, but oh well.
whatever.
And,
But I mean, it makes sense for him to then have grow up and have superpowers.
uh,
So, but I agree. I think Hiroshima is just like, oh, the go-to, the immediately recognized thing, and I think that's one to
yeah.
go to.
There are other death camps other than Auschwitz too. So
Well, sure.
and so kind of a little bit of laziness there. Yeah, just they introduced a lot of cool characters and then they kill them. And it's like, oh, okay, they're dead now. I kind of like them, but now they're dead. I don't know if they're gonna come back or they're gonna be risen.
Or if it was all a dream, you don't
Yeah,
know.
they were here. He was in the shower and they just dreamed it.
Oh, like Patrick Duffy at the
Yeah.
end of Dallas, right?
Well drawn, interesting. It's a little bit like X Men. A little bit more adult than X Men, I guess. Not in a bad way.
I
But
think the Renegades, their team actually reminds me a lot of John Byrne's book Next Men, which was
hmm,
a more adult and quote unquote realistic or whatever version of doing the X-Men. Um, so that's pretty cool. And then they preview what's coming up in another book, Exo Manowar. Um,
it's a quick little story. Beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. Really well done.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's
but
talking
it's
about the planet that the Exo Manowar his enemies, the Vine, came from, and it's the story about their world and the kind of the birth of his living armor, the myth behind that. And I thought that was really cool. Now, I'd been reading a lot of these Valiant relaunch books. I was buying Exo, Bloodshot, and Harbinger, and they're all terrific books. Only reason I'm not getting them now is I had to close my box. It was a money thing.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, really wonderful company and something I was probably more excited about than anything I was reading, or than a lot of the things I was reading from Marvel and DC at the time.
Yeah.
So
The next one is Archer Armstrong. I'm not sure what's going on here, but it's long ago in the far away. I'm not sure I like that or not.
yeah,
It's either very clever or very stupid.
yeah.
I can't make up my mind.
Archer and Armstrong's kind of a weird book, but Armstrong is the brother of Jalad, who was the Eternal Warrior. And so this is kind of taking place. This little segment is taking place in the ancient past.
Yeah, land of Ur, where
Yeah,
Abraham came from, and I
sure.
think that's very interesting place. It's not hasn't been piled over as much.
Sure.
But well drawn. Not sure what's going on, but it was pretty cool.
Yeah. I was picking up Archer and Armstrong. I was bored by issue 3 and dropped it after issue 4. Which that's kind of stinks. You know, the other books from Valiant that I was reading were really wonderful, and I stopped picking them up reluctantly. So, and I think there's a final preview in here. Oh, there's of Quantum and Woody.
Yeah.
Another revival of a book from the 90s. I never read the original series. It's these two guys that get superpowers. They're brothers, except one of them is black and one of them is white. So I guess one of them must be adopted or something. But yeah, it's an interesting play on the traditional superhero thing, which Valiant doesn't do so much the superheroes in the traditional fashion. So it's kind of cool to see their take on.
Yeah, I didn't get into it enough to get interested in it. I'm just sort of, and it's.
And that's fair. You can try to put too much in a free comic book day issue. And this might be the case.
We wish these people well. I don't want, I want more comic books. I want more people making comic books, more people reading comic books. And free comic book day is a perfect way to get people more interested in different comic books, but it's got to be done well. And a lot of these things I would not go back again because I have limited funds and a limited amount of time.
Right. I realize you want to promote as many books as you can, but isn't it smarter to maybe preview 2 of your titles, like your flagship, and then something new that you're putting out that you really like to push? To me, that seems like a stronger marketing ploy. But yeah. So next we have from Image Comics, The Walking Dead, and this is the hottest show on TV, the biggest thing in comics.
And it should be. And this is well done. I like the black and white. Great story. The best I've read so far. And I think it may be the best I've read in this section, a collection of comic books. And it's very well done.
Oh yeah, no, it's a terrific book. Robert Kirkman, he's a great writer. And I love the black and white. I think, especially for a horror book, and especially for something that's very, very human, character drawn, and very into that personal drama, that's the right format.
And very similar, close to the original
Night of the Living Dead?
Night of the Living Dead, yeah. Which is black and white.
Yeah.
And so it's appropriate.
I wish the original Dawn of the Dead had been in black and white.
It was, no. Because a lot of the grossness would not have been as gross if it was not in color.
I think it'd be scarier if it was black and white. It's not, and I think the zombies would have looked better. The zombies look ridiculous.
Oh, no, they look fine.
Okay.
For me.
Okay.
I like special effects, but if the story is good, I don't care if the special effects kind of. They could look better, but a lot of the humor and all that needed the gore, and that's what made it funny. And the blood has got to be red in order for the laughs to come out.
Okay. But yeah, no, I think The Walking Dead is a great comic. I think they're over 100 issues now, and the early issues, boy, they go for a boatload of money. And I've read several of the trade paperbacks. It's a wonderful book. It's just great. So from Drawn and Quarterly Press, we've got Marble Season, which is this great new book by Gilbert Hernandez.
Love and Rockets.
That's right. Which is a cool. Unfortunately, I only know Love and Rockets in passing, but I have seen Gilbert Hernandez's work before. Love his art, and this I just love the story.
I normally don't, and it's really well done. And this is not my type of thing, but I can appreciate something that's not my type of thing. Nice slice of life when you were a kid. They had a cool club where you're forced to do stuff like do all the dishes for your mother and stuff like that,
or making the fat kid wear like a belt around his waist, like really tight or something.
Yeah, and that was fun. That was cool. A lot of talent here, and if you like this kind of stuff, you'll like it. I don't, but Love and Rockets I never could get into, but I'm not a big fan of real life comics.
Okay.
So, unless it's Hate Magazine, because it
Yeah,
doesn't matter. But
Hate Comics is great,
yeah.
but I don't read enough slice of life type of comics, and that's what I'll call this.
Mm-hmm.
But when I do, I generally enjoy them. Hate is a great example. Box Office Poison's another one, and I'll lend you the trade to that. It's beautiful. Um, this I do want to read. This is a series I really like. I love it. It's these just kids growing up in the '60s and the the view of the world of kids as they're
Yeah,
beginning to understand the world and the things that they're into and the things that matter to them.
it
It's
rings
kids,
true.
yeah,
This is truth,
and it's
and it's really
kids,
well done.
and their big imaginations, loving Captain America and Superman and comic books, um, and
Very simply drawn, nicely drawn. I mean, you don't have to have complexity.
I think
Uh,
it's just a beautiful book. Marvel season. Uh, so yeah, I liked it. So from Oni Press, we have The Strangers.
yeah.
Novelist Chris Roberson writes it.
Somebody likes Jack Kirby, and a lot of Kirby monsters in here.
I like this art. There's a handful of artists out there that draw in this very Silver Age kind of style, and I love it. I love reading new comics that look like '60s comics. And it's like this is a spy book. Only there's super spies with superpowers. So it's to me that makes me think of the Thunder Agents, but this kind of has more of that Man from Uncle James Bond kind of vibe. Um,
Ends on a cliffhanger. You say, "Well, I wonder what happens next." I really do want to know, and really well drawn. Very similar to Hernandez's drawing style. Very simple but effective.
yeah, I'm
Um,
trying to look through my notes for the artist. It's oh, excuse me, it's Scott Kowalczyk, and I really like this art. I mean, there's other guys like Chris Samney and Michael Allred, and there are others who draw in this very '60s, pop art kind of style, and it's terrific. I can't get enough of comics that look like that.
yeah.
So well done, Kowalczyk.
Yeah. Interesting story. And they have watches, which I want to watch it go Z Z Z, and they.
Oh, the watches that look like Jimmy Olsen's Signal watch.
Hmm.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, this is a book I would like to read. Another smaller publisher, Oni Press, but very cool.
Yeah. I saw an advertisement, and that's one of the things that's fun about comic books is looking at advertising, whether they're old or new.
Sure.
And there's a thing called Wars in Toyland. I says, that's an interesting idea.
Sure.
And
It's a house ad for another book Oni Press is putting out. Could be cool.
yeah, that interests me. Uh, okay.
Yeah.
Next one's Fubar from
From
Fubar
Fubar Press. Yeah.
Nice little war stories that have zombies, and I liked it. You have Patton, you have Washington, and they've done well. It respects these people. It
Yeah.
doesn't make them look stupid, and
Right.
which is often popular culture will make uh, famous people look dumb or something like that, and
Right.
try to do revisionist. But even Washington's enemies respected Washington.
Right. And I love that story in this book. And it's an anthology, and I think there's like 3 or 4 different stories with different
Yeah.
art teams
Mhm.
doing them. It's all black and white, but it's just different points in history, war stories mainly, where they just interject, they put zombies in.
Yeah.
And it's rad.
Mhm.
And I think that's just what Fubar Press does. They just put out these graphic novels of zombie war stories.
First time I've seen in comics Edward R. Murrow. So,
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. They had a Edward R. Murrow, covering the London Blitz, and Nazis drop these cylinders on London that contain zombies, and so they come out and you know wreak havoc all over London during the Blitz. I think that was really neat.
um, yeah, it was really cool. I enjoyed it immensely.
Yeah, Fubar. I had heard of it, but this is the first time I'd read anything from it. I'd like to read more.
You know what FUBAR means, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I know it's an acronym, and it's not safe for this show.
Oh, fouled up beyond all
Oh,
recognition.
fouled up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any other word that could be any other there
Yes.
for it? Okay.
Some other word, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Um, but
I've
yeah.
always liked those. There's also JAN for Joint Army Navy foul up, which I always thought was entertaining.
So this next book that we're talking about, this is really cool. Bantam Books, who is not known for putting out comics, they're putting out a series of graphic novels that are adapting, well, prose novels. They've got one from Louis L'Amour, and surprise, it's a Western, and another one from Jonathan Kellerman, and this is this weird kind of, I think it's a thriller with some science fiction elements, subtle science fiction elements, and I don't have a whole lot to say. I just really enjoyed it. It's all black and white.
Well drawn. Not a huge Western fan, but it was pretty interesting. And Louis L'Amour was very accurate in his depictions of what cowboy life was, and just follows. There's no anachronisms. Looks well done. Nice story. Want to see what happened next. The Kellerman story, I thought was interesting, and then it just ends, and doesn't end on a cliffhanger, it just ends. And
right.
So you don't know what's going on, and you don't know if anything is going on yet. It's kind of a weird place. But.
Yeah, but these are being released as these are just excerpts from these standalone graphic novels that they're putting out, and so I'd be interested to read these, particularly the Kellerman book. The Web was interesting, but I gotta say though, I'm not crazy about like reading Western comics like Silver and Golden Age stuff. It's not outside of Jonah Hex. It's not too happening.
Yeah.
But currently there are some Western comics. I can't remember. It's either IDW or Dynamite puts out these Lone Ranger comics that are really wonderful. And then this, as an example, the L'Amour adaptation, I thought was pretty cool. So the genre, there's still some life in that little genre within comics. So.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I need to check those out.
Yeah.
Oh, next one's Absolution.
And who's that from? What company put that out?
Avatar.
Oh, Avatar Press. That's right.
I wouldn't name my company after some that term that popular.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. The entire plot of this world has superheroes who are cops, and they're not. They have superpowers, but nothing super awesomely great powers. They're I don't know, medium.
Yeah, they're low level superpowers. Like no one is like Superman or like the Silver Surfer. Like you can't do anything to them. These are guys at like the Spider-Man level, the Iron Man level. I mean, he's not a good example because he doesn't really have powers, but you know what I mean.
It's interesting. It's definitely not for children. There are some very disturbing scenes in here. He fights, what is, Law and Order, SVU?
Yeah.
Is that the
yeah. It's very much like that. Yeah.
Very disturbing. Well drawn. I liked it. I had trouble with the faces. Some of the faces looked the same, or I didn't like the way the faces looked. And I think it might be the weakest part of modern comics. Faces, they kind of blend together, and that's with anime too. And
sure,
if I waste time trying to figure out who's who, unless there's a point in the plot about this,
right?
It kind of loses me.
That's the great thing about superhero comics. The costume, you'll always recognize those characters, and that's probably why the genre has, that genre has been so dominant in the medium. Because, okay, if somebody's not good at making distinct, they might be a great artist, but making distinct facial features like, oh, you recognize that person immediately? Hello, the uniform will always, oh, duh, Superman, or whatever. So I think that's good. And, I know you've mentioned a few times that, like, wow, this is pretty graphic, or this is, definitely not kid stuff. We got to remember that, by and large, the comic book readership is not children. Free Comic Book Day has, about half of the books they put out, and there were like 50-odd books this year, are geared towards children. And they're like kiddie books, and I didn't pick those up because that's not what this show is really about. But they're trying to bring kids in, and I think by and large most books that Marvel and DC put out are still appropriate. But a lot of the smaller press stuff, there's some really dark adult material that's, you know, again, you know, it's not for a juvenile audience and it's not intended for it.
Mm.
So yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, I'd be curious to read that. I mean, the bulk of that book was, I think, reprinting something from the first series and then kind of previewing the new book that's coming out. So I think the first part of Absolution is already out in trade paperback, I think. So yeah. But anyway, our next book is Ramayan, 3392 AD. And this is based on this Hindu epic that I'm totally unfamiliar with outside of having read this comic. We get snippets of several characters and that are woven throughout this story. What did you have to say about this?
I love reading stuff from different cultures, and because it's like we have our tropes and our plots that are reused over and over in Western culture, and you go to a different culture like Spirited Away. I had no idea what was going to happen next. It was just totally surprised.
Because it's so alien, the setting.
Right. And that's great.
And that's how this book felt.
Yeah.
I was like, what in the world?
Yeah, and it was in a nice way. It wasn't in a stupid, forced way. It was just, this is the way they tell stories, and it was interesting. Really well drawn. Very nice.
Various artists throughout this, but it's all of it is gorgeous. And Ron Mars wrote all of it. This is his baby. And Ron Mars was, what I remember him most from anyway, was his runs on Green Lantern in the 90s. An excellent writer. It's cool to see him do stuff. I think Jim Starlin does some art in this too, which is cool. But yeah, it's a cool book. I mean, I think the concept might be so dense that this is not a casual reading comic. Yeah. I'll say that. But I get the impression that this is either the regular series itself is as an anthology or it's a family of books that tie together. That I was confused about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But intrigued by the depth of character and the so many things going on.
Right. It was really well drawn. And I don't know enough about Indian culture, and I don't think anybody does.
Yeah, certainly not in the States.
And it's it's the world's largest democracy, and we should know more about it.
All right. Oh yeah, this is from Graphic India, which is a publisher I was entirely unfamiliar with.
Yeah, and there was an advertisement for Grant Morrison's 18 Days, and that sounds interesting. It's an animated series. I had never heard of it.
I have a feeling that's going to be like one of those online animated series.
Mm.
But Grant Morrison
is
one of the great writers in comics, and I usually like most things that he does. So, I mean, he wrote All-Star Superman, and he did wonderful things with Animal Man, and on and on. So, so from IDW, we've got Judge Dredd Classics.
First time I read Judge Dredd, and I didn't do anything for me.
Oh.
Judge Dredd's kind of boring. He's just really stern. It's an interesting idea. These judges who, I mean, they're cops who.
They're judge, jury, and executioner.
Exactly.
Yeah. I liked it. It's cool. It introduces his biggest, arch rival, Judge Death. Even though we haven't learned like the full origin of like where in the world did this guy come from. Yeah. It's intriguing.
Yeah, it is.
I love the art. Brian Bolland, who he illustrated Batman's, The Killing Joke.
Why did he kill a DJ?
Judge Death?
Yeah.
He's evil. Yeah.
Yeah, why a DJ? I mean, maybe they'll explain it later. But
yeah.
Sort of says because he was killing murderers and thieves, and he kills a DJ,
Well, this is to give the distinction. Like Judge Death is totally evil. He's totally unhinged, and the judges in our of Mega City 1, especially Judge Dredd, they've got to eliminate this guy because he's no good for peace and welfare.
Well, living is a crime in his world.
Yeah.
So we find out later. Um,
But I think it's really cool. Judge Dredd's it's a British comic. It
mhm.
ran in this anthology 2000 AD for years and still does in their new issues. Um, and periodically, different American companies will license the property for reprinting here and also for original material. And that's what IDW is doing. They've got a reprint series of Judge Dredd classics, and they've got a new series that's been out for a few months now. And yeah.
Yeah. I must be missing something. I have to read more Judge Dredd. It's obviously popular for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, I like this. It's cool. I mean, I've only read a handful of other Judge Dredd comics. What I've read, I've liked. Um, Man, I love that most recent movie. I thought it was
I
excellent.
haven't seen that yet. Some of the language, my doc, is just
Yeah,
interesting.
this is one of the things I don't like. It takes place in the future, and they have like made up swear words and slang and stuff.
And
And I'm
they
like,
did a rock and roll song that was rock and roll and comics don't mix. It's gonna be dated by the time it gets on the page. Just ignore it. Don't put any lyrics down. The lyrics sounded stupid and
yeah,
uh,
pop cultural references in comics. Once you get a few years away, it's like, ooh, it's bad.
yeah.
But
There was a nice story about or in here about a.
Walter the Wobot.
Oh, I hated that.
Oh, wasn't that what you were talking about?
No, I was talking about the the female judge
Oh,
who,
Judge Anderson, and she's a
yeah,
telepath. Yeah,
right, and she traps Judge Death, and it's really well done. I like that part.
yeah.
Self-sacrifice is pretty nice. Did not like the robot. Robots are not funny.
I,
They
I,
never,
I
ever, ever.
agree, and the way Walter speaks is very irritating. But yeah, it's this goofy robot that is like Judge Dredd's like housekeeper or something, and he gets himself into some trouble. But
He's as
yeah,
funny as Tweaky from Buck Rogers.
oh
Which
man,
means
actually
he's not.
no, Walter makes Twiki seem really awesome. But I would have preferred just to have another Judge Dredd story as a backup rather than have that. But
Apparently he's popular though. I don't know.
I don't know. That was actually I hadn't really remembered Judge or Walter from other Judge Dredd stuff that I'd read. So
Sometimes comedy doesn't travel well. A lot of our comedy. Johnny Carson is only funny in North America. He's not funny in England or anything. And
all right,
Johnny Carson's great,
yeah,
but sometimes humor doesn't travel.
all
And
right.
maybe we're
Even
missing something.
it's the local color that doesn't really come across. I mean, even some Monty Python stuff. I'm like, is this supposed to be funny? This
Mm,
stinks, But it's like the funniest thing in the world, across the pond. So I don't know.
yeah. Oh, well.
I'm not bagging on Monty Python as a whole. I mean, just some stuff. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
That's huh?
Right.
But so our last book of the day is we mentioned 2000 AD. Well, it's current. It's still going as an anthology book, and they've got a free comic book day issue, and it's got a couple Judge Dredd stories, and it's got some other things that are serialized like Indigo Prime, which is I thought was really interesting.
Um, I thought the Judge Dredd was well done.
I like it.
It
Some
was
guys
decent.
that pose as judges because they want to be judges, and
Gems, and
yeah,
that was interesting. Indigo Prime, I don't know what's going on. Okay, but it's very well drawn, beautiful, but I had no idea what happened. Okay, so
but it's really I don't know. I love some of these just Mondo Bizarro things. I'm drawn to things like that are done cleverly. It's probably from the years that I would read Heavy Metal magazine because they would do
mhm,
lots of things like this. And I guess it's probably the England's version uh,
yeah,
of Heavy Metal. There's a
yeah,
wonderful story in here called Future Shocks.
yes, very nice, nice twist ending,
Um,
um, Twilight Zone-ish,
yeah,
maybe.
very Twilight Zone, very weird science, Tales from the Crypt
Uh,
kind of thing, but dark.
yeah, very
A
very
guy
dark.
marooned on a hostile planet. Remember Enemy Mine?
Yes, I do.
It makes me think about that. I love that movie. It's one of my favorites. But yeah, there's a twist to it. He's trying to signal somebody to rescue him, and he's got to fight off these monsters, and you know, uh, cool story.
Beautifully drawn. And most of these are. I haven't really. There's some that's everything is either good or beautiful. There's no really badly drawn.
Yeah, well,
And I can't judge color. Something that's this looks nice, but I don't know how to judge. Oh, that's not a good coloring job. I don't know enough about it.
well, right. I mean, if something looks dull, or if it looks too dark or muddy or too bright for the story, that's a good way to judge a colorist, I
I
suppose.
rarely notice that. I
Yeah,
think, my eyes are getting bad or something.
sure. Um, But yeah, and I think the reason you're saying all this is beautiful art, and well, yeah, most comic books, like, it's hard to break into the comic book industry, and even harder to stay. And so generally, the product is high quality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, usually when I read a comic that I don't like, it's not because of the art, although that happens. There are artists who I just don't like their style.
All right.
But it's usually I don't like it because I think the writing is poor.
Yeah.
And that exists. But by and large, I think most comic books are, at the very least, competently written and entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly there are others. There are some that are not worth your money, and others that are
Yeah, if
definitely
someone
worth
gave
buying.
me on any of these gave me a free subscription, I would read them. I wouldn't toss them out immediately. They're all worth reading. Everything we've talked about today, some more so than others.
Yeah.
It's none of this is drug, and everyone works hard. And I don't want to. I kind of feel guilty about writing stuff bad about. Well, these guys are pouring their heart and souls, and they're living now. They may even listen to our podcast. So I really want to knock them over and criticize them because I cannot draw. And I can criticize.
But as a consumer, and as someone who appreciates the medium of comic
Mhm.
books, you want to say, like, this is what is done well, and this is what I didn't like for
Mhm.
whatever reason. And you and I are not always in consensus upon that, and I think it makes for our show good.
Yeah. And different people like different things, and some of this might be stuff I don't particularly like might be really popular. So maybe they should not listen to me, but sometimes maybe they should. I don't know. Often I think I'm not knowledgeable enough to do this, but I think coming from um, an everyman perspective and looking at this, and then
And
coming fresh into it, gives me an insight into it that somebody's been reading this would know, but um, they need to get new people into comics.
well, right, and as somebody who's been away from comics for a period of years and coming back, that's also a different perspective that I think is valuable.
Mhm.
I've had to come and go kind of, in comics, um, as far as current comics. But
I think the last time I was really getting current comics is when Superman was killed.
oh, well,
And I
that would have
think
been
maybe
what?
about 2 or 3 years after that, and I think I just stopped doing it.
Sure.
Getting brand new comics as they came out, and it was fun, but it was kind of disappointing the whole Superman dying.
Yeah.
So.
I think being a reader of comics that come out, on a regular basis, um, unless you're waiting for the trades, which is great because you can just get them whenever you can,
Mm-hmm.
not, but if you're getting them week to week, it helps to be gainfully employed.
Yeah.
It's you can always have time to read comics because there's always your magazine rack on the john or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's the thing about getting comics every week on Wednesday. There's always more stuff that you find that you want to be picking up and reading or try out. So it's definitely addicting.
Yeah.
But other books in this 2000 AD, I know we've got on a big tangent.
Right.
Are excellent. They've got pieces of things. The Visible Man, which I guess is an ongoing feature, and I didn't say invisible. It's a guy whose skin is invisible. I don't know how plays
It's an
out,
homage to the old EC horror comics, I think.
which is cool
Yeah.
because I love that stuff.
It's okay. Let's see, then we got a Judge Dredd, which was okay. Really, really well drawn. I really like looking at it. And and fairly clever. An alien wedding. Uh,
Yeah, this guy, he's an alien and he keeps marrying, getting these brides who know that as soon as he gets them pregnant, they're going to be eaten alive by their offspring. And so Dredd's trying to charge him for murder, and it's interesting.
mm,
Um, so yeah, I think 2000 AD. It's a cool anthology book. You got lots of stuff. If you like science fiction, which is really what the that book's about, um, it has a lot to offer. That's what I like about anthology books, and I don't read enough about them. There's gonna be something in them that you like.
yeah,
The only thing is usually they're serialized, and
yeah,
it's well you need to be picking it up regularly. They'll have one and done stories, but there'll be a lot of serials.
right. Hmm.
Um, so yeah,
Um, let's see. Insurrection was the next one.
yeah, and there's this story, and this I think takes place in the same universe world of Judge Dredd, and these guys they're on this other planet, and I'm actually trying to remember there's a rebellion or something that they're
Mm-hmm.
plotting or something like that. Um,
Well, yeah, well drawn, black and white.
the art reminds me of Richard Corbin, and I mean that as a
Oh
huge
yes.
compliment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. Oh, I gotta ask you, what did you think of this? The last feature in this book, Zombo.
Ah,
I think art's terrific.
yeah, the art's terrific. Why didn't you just kill the guy at first? You
Because
know,
then you don't
they,
have a story. You know,
yeah, it's yeah,
it's a weird this story, and I don't even know how to begin trying to.
so that's not even.
Yeah,
That's a
it's a
lot.
weird commentary on consumerism and conformity and modern society. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
But I think Zombo is an interesting comic. I think I've read one other Zombo story before. This is something cool to check out, and you'll only see it in the 2000 AD magazine.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Yeah, really well drawn. Four singing lions. Is it four? Yeah. The fifth one's is
goes punk,
goes punk.
and that's not okay.
All right.
But
Is this like a reprint or something, or does anyone care about?
I think it's a new material. I'm not sure if it's reprinted from a previous issue.
Um, because I don't think people get killed for changing musical
But again, this
things
is
anymore.
it's another context. It's like a future, police state kind of scenario, where a lot of, things that we would regard as choice are regulated.
Mm,
And I think
yeah.
it's about that. And a lot of these British things that are really, like create these British comics that create this, fascist, oppressive empire, they're all speaking about, Thatcher's England.
Yeah.
And it's all an outcrop of those kind of vibes and feelings people had, in that era. And I think that's where 2000 AD as a book was born, and that's the vibe I think they tried to maintain. Stick it to the
Interesting.
man, don't trust anybody over
Yeah.
30 kind of.
Yeah. Okay. The lion does look regal, and that's an image of, or the symbol of Britain.
Yeah,
It's a lion. So
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Good explanation. Um, all right. Interesting story. Well drawn, as usual. It's very differently drawn. One of the most differently drawn ones. It's
It's very distinct. Yeah,
yeah. The girl looks like she's from Archie comics, but the everything else looks like it's the lions look like they're on a stained glass window.
yeah, yeah.
I guess.
So, but
All right.
anyway, that's
That was
that's a
interesting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to next year's free comic day.
so let me ask, and as we wrap up the show for today, we picked like 14 books out of the 52 plus that came out for this year. Out of all of these, what really stuck out in your mind the most, Jeff? That was like, man, I would love to go out and pick that book out.
Um,
I know you said The Walking Dead. And I agree with you. That's
that's
wonderful.
really good. Fubar
Yeah.
was really good.
Zombies. You can't go wrong with it.
Yeah.
It seems.
Yes, you can.
Well, yeah.
As we will see when World War Z comes out.
Ugh.
Strangers, I like that. The Walking Dead was good, very good.
Would you want to read more Valiant comics?
Did those Harbinger War sounds interesting? Yeah, definitely. The Indian thing. What was that?
Indian thing.
From India.
Ramayan.
Ramayan.
Yeah, from India.
Thank you for pronouncing that.
From Graphic India, yeah.
That one. The Superman story, and I'm a big Superman fan, but kind of interested to see what happens with little Superman or whatever he's going to be.
And I think that series, the Superman: The Last Son of Krypton, I think it's out in trade already. Mm-hmm. So.
The Thanos one is interesting.
Well. Infinity, yeah, I think that's going to be I think it might be a limited series that's coming up, so it'll be kind of. I like when event books it's a limited series and it's not like a big crossover with all these other books. I prefer here's a 12-issue limited series, get it, and here's the whole story. Crisis on Infinite Earths, Secret Wars, those are great. I like events done that way. When you got to buy 10 other titles that you normally don't, that I find obnoxious. I think you're just stealing from people.
They did that with the Superman dies, and I was buying all these comics as and you're getting to other stories, and oh man, it's just.
I like subplots, and that's cool, but yeah, that you can have too much of a good thing.
Yeah. If I had all the money in the world and all the time in the world to read comics, that'd be one thing, but my time is limited.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
I know, and I think that's the way with prose books, be they fiction or non. I'm like, there's not enough time. I'm like Burgess Meredith in the Twilight Zone.
Oh.
There was time now.
Oh, that's sad.
That's a terrible episode of the Twilight Zone. Actually, the moral is you shouldn't read. Don't be a bookworm.
No, I suppose it's just. What is it supposed to say? I mean, it hurts me even think about that episode. What's the point? What is the point of it? Life's a bummer.
Yeah, that story is such a downer just to be a downer. And most Twilight Zone episodes are morality tales. The best ones are. Mm-hmm. But that one, it's very well remembered. There's really strong imagery.
Yeah.
But it's awful. It's like, this
he
man.
Mankind. He was happy that mankind had left, and so he shouldn't be anti-mankind.
But it was this poor little guy. He just wanted to read, and his wife wouldn't let him read. He couldn't read on his lunch hour at work. His one pleasure in life. Yeah. Everyone in the world was trying to keep him from. Mm-hmm. And then the world ends, and his glasses break. And man, God must really hate you. Yeah. That's the story of that, and I think that's awful. So,
yeah.
It's so weird that we're getting on this tangent.
Yeah, but it's a good.
Is it relevant to the show?
I forgot the train of thought.
Yeah.
I'm on Dayquil.
Oh, are you?
Yes.
Oh, Jeff stoned. We need to wrap up.
Okay.
We've gone a little long, but thanks for listening. We'll do this again soon.